Okay, so the second question that was on my my podcast that I really want to talk about, because it's a great question, and me and Jamie have talked about this. Do you talk to your younger girls, like my 10 and 11-year-old, about addiction? Yes, you have to. You have to. I'm sorry. You don't have to be vulgar. You don't have to be inappropriate. There's age-appropriate ways to tell children that these are the dangers and this is what I went through. So I think all the kids in my life, like Jamie's kids, they all understand now that Mel was really, really sick because of drugs, and it made her do really bad things and mean things because I was sick. And that's all you have to tell your kids. We equate addiction with sickness in our family. We always have. Because I'm not a monster, I'm fucking ill, right? So just like somebody with mental health issues, you would say they're sick. Like, for example, when I was growing up, my Uncle Danny, who lived with my grandma, he's got schizophrenia pretty badly. So I always grew up with my Uncle Danny, knowing my Uncle Danny was sick and that his brain was sick. So when I got sick, it was just, that's how we talk to the kids about it. And that's how Jamie talks to her kids about it. Equating addiction with sickness really makes the kids understand that it's not the person's fault, okay? That, I think any child can understand. That mom is sick, dad is sick, and his sickness is making him not himself, and I have to protect you from dad or mom's sickness, because I've been put in a situation where they trust me, the courts or children, or your mom or your dad, they trust me to protect you from their sickness. So my kids know a little bit more than most kids, especially Aria, I think, because the fucking kid watches my TikToks. And as much as I've tried to be like, get off my TikTok, you're curious. You're curious. But now, like, okay, for example, I was on the radio a couple weeks ago, or about 2 months ago. And my daughter, who's 11, heard it. And heard human trafficking. And I didn't think she knew what it was, but she does. She knows. That's a conversation we haven't had. That is the only part of my addiction in my life, in my past, that I will not ever talk to my kids about until they're teenagers. That part, they don't need to fucking know. But addiction itself, yes. I want my kids to know that if you do drugs, you will die. Especially today, like in 2025, you can't just experiment, especially with your predisposition. So if there's addiction that runs in your family and your children have that predisposition, it is your job. It is your responsibility to fucking tell them. Because if I would have known back in early 2000s that, hey, all of your family are fucking addicts. All of your family are addicts. You can't just experiment. That is not, like, it will end badly. It could have been a different outcome, right? So I really encourage people, if the child has the predisposition gene, you have to be honest. If not, you're failing your fucking kids. We know better, we do better today. And if you still don't do better, you're failing your fucking kids. Kids with education go out into the world with armor that not all kids have. Right? So yeah, you can tell your kids, I fucking overdosed. I ended up in the hospital because I fucking overdosed, and someone found me in a snowbank at 3 o'clock in the morning. Scare the fuck out of them if you have to. You know? So I think, like, you don't have to tell them the nitty gritty, but yeah, teach them how to use Narcan. Show them the signs of overdose. 110%. Like, because if something happens in the future, you will feel like shit. You will feel responsible. And in my opinion, if your children had addicts for parents, or there's a predisposition gene in their family and you didn't tell them, that's your fucking fault. Kids are kids, bro. You wouldn't send your children out into the world without learning how to read. You wouldn't send your children out into the world without knowing to protect themselves. We teach our children the right terminology for our sexual body parts. We teach them and prepare them in that regard to prepare them for anything that would happen to them in the future. So if they get abused, they can tell you, "Mommy, he touched my," and use the proper terminology. That's what the experts tell us to do. I'm not an expert. I am an expert because of my lived experience, and my lived experience tells me you need to prepare your children way more than I was prepared, because I wasn't prepared. And I say this over and over, and this is not to dog on my mom and dad, because a lot of people seem to think that when I say things like this. But when there's an OxyContin epidemic going on in your fucking community and your teenagers out there experimenting and you don't fucking tell them, bro, that's on your ass. That's not on your 16-year-old. Fuck. Right? So the world we live in today, where our country and countries all around the world are experiencing a fentanyl epidemic and an epidemic of overdose, like my community, the overdose rates went up 185%. The leading cause of death in people over the age of 40 is overdose. So if I don't tell my kids that, that's my fault. If I don't teach my children the signs of overdose, that's my fault, not their fault. They don't know how to use Narcan and something happens, that's my fault. So yeah, you can have age-appropriate conversations that educate your children without traumatizing them, you know? So yeah, I definitely am open and honest about my recovery and about the shit. Like, I don't think, there's a lot of people that didn't follow me before, but at my recovery party, all my kids said speeches. Well, not Cadence, but my two babies, they said speeches. And the first thing Emily said was, "I'm proud that you survived." So she understands that it was something I had to survive and not something I did to myself. She did say, "I'm happy you survived something so fucking stupid and you're fucking stupid." But she doesn't understand that I wasn't prepared for the world the way they're prepared for the world. And I think it's my job to prepare them in that regard. Considering everybody's been touched by addiction, why would you not prepare your children? Right? So when Aria said her little speech, she was just like, "I'm happy." Like Emily said, "I'm happy that I don't have to tell my friends that my mommy's sick. And that's why I don't live with her." Right? Her friends know now my mom's in recovery, because she has friends whose parents have died. Her best friend's father died of a drug overdose. So they're already aware. They're already aware. And if you don't explain it to them and give them the proper education, they're filling in the gaps by themselves. You don't want that. You don't want them to fill the information in with shit they hear on TV or from their friends or whatever. You want the education to be from you and to be legitimate and accurate. So I definitely think it is our responsibility as parents in 2025, with what's going on in our community, not just our community, but in the world, and it is our responsibility to prepare them 110%. And if you don't, you are doing your children an injustice. Period on period.